This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action, and you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Hi, this is David Patrick Wilson. I played Superman, Clark Kent, in the television production of It's a Bird, It's a Plane, enjoying every minute of being right here on the Krypton Report.
Hello, everyone. This episode is a little bit different because we are going back to what I'm calling the Batman Keaton universe expansion. And we're looking at 4 items and where they fit and kind of talking about things in how they've expanded upon Batman 89. Now, we're not really talking about the Flash movie. I'm going to get that out here first. Yes, it features Keaton and it hints back, but the way that film worked, because the writer and the director were dumb and unintelligent, instead of making it where Barry went to another Earth where his mom was alive, and he met the Batman of that Earth and discovered Supergirl, and just made that its own Earth, they had to do some retroactive, multi-coaxial, fulcrum, time-shifting stuff, which just throws everything out of place. They could have just made it he went to Earth 2 to save his mom. And by traveling the multiverse, he discovered his mom and everything. And he actually had to have a conversation with his mom about, the events on Earth 1. And then he just went back, changed time, saved his dad, bada bing, bada boom. Simple. And we didn't have to do the stupid story that we did with backup Barry, the way they did it. And if I could just headcanon it, I'd put it on a separate Earth. Anyways, the other element that we're not really going to touch on hardcore is Crisis. Now, if we really wanted to work on it, we could work on how Crisis shifted things and how this is all canon. Anyways, because of Crisis, because we have Nox, who appears, and we see a bat symbol go up, and it's a little bit different than what we're used to, and everything. So, that's a little bit of 89 connection. I think we have a little bit of a theme in there. It's been a little bit since I've watched all of Crisis on Infinite Earths. But they did do a good job of trying to tie in as much of the overarching DC universe as possible. So what we're talking about is 2 groups of comics and 2 novels. Now, novel kind of conversation reviews are something that's new that we're trying to do and dig into more recently. It's something I'm working on because it takes so much time and commitment. It's something I do more independently than I do with anyone else. So this episode will be recorded in chunks, and then we'll kind of have a full conversation towards the end because of the time it takes to read things. Even though I'm taking notes, keeping track of everything is a daunting task. So the first thing is Batman 89, the comic, also dubbed Shadows. Now, this came out a little while ago, and I think it was 2022. I'm pulling it up now because my time frame's off a little bit. And it came out rather together, and it was written by Sam Hamm, one of the original screenwriters for Batman 89. Okay, now it is interesting that what comes out of this comic series is not from the original pitch or anything from their Batman Returns, because this comic series called Shadows, even though it says just Batman 89 on the cover, is following Batman Returns because Catwoman does appear. All right. So that's very important that this is technically would be Batman number 3. It starts and we get Harvey Dent. This is Billy D. Williams' Harvey Dent. and it is his story inside the comic. A lot of major things happen. One is we have groups of people going out as the Batman, pretending that they're the Batman, causing problems that Bruce didn't foresee. We have Street trying to be cleaned up by Harvey. Harvey has this idea of running for mayor, and he's dating Barbara Gordon, who's a police officer. And it's been a year, I think, if I remember correctly in my timeline notes, since Batman Forever, or I'm sorry, Batman, no Forever, since Batman Returns, because Bruce does say a line he gave up about a year ago searching for Selina. So, and it starts off, it's Halloween. And if we think about it, is that a year since he stopped looking for it, or a little bit more, because we know that the events of Batman Returns is at Christmas. This book opens on Halloween. Now, what happens next is intriguing, because Harvey is out on the streets and really putting himself out there. He proposes to marry Barbara. Now, we meet more of Harvey's past and the Burnside neighborhood he grew up on, and how he hasn't really come around. And we meet Drake Winston. Now, in my original notes, I put Winston Drake, but it's Drake Winston. And he becomes, basically, he's doing his own thing with his colors being that of Robin. Now, this is very similar storyline. That was one of the ideas for a kind of Jason Todd inspired Robin in the original Batman Returns script, which is where we would have gotten the Marlon Wayans Robin. Now, if you go and you look at the toy from Batman Returns of Robin, which I own two, one out of the box, one in, he has a cut of hair that's similar, that was supposed to reflect the Marlon Wayans design. That particular Robin storyline was cut from Returns, thus why Robin was kind of rushed and made sure that he appeared in the subsequent film Batman Forever. Now, they use, like I said, more of that kind of idea, making him African American. Nothing wrong with that. You know, we did the what's his face? Why am I drawing a blank? Duke Robin for the recent Bat Wheels animated series. So we have another Robin to the canon of ever-going, changing Robins in comics, Elseworlds, and everything above. So he comes Robin, and during a scene of him fighting, where some people are looting, who are disguised as Batman, they say, he's robbing us. And then some kids over here, and they have this argument about, oh, they called him Robin. No, I think they said Robin, as in like stealing. And it's kind of a play on R. He works for Royalton Automotives. That's where the big R comes from, and it works to the story. Eventually, he puts it together, and him and Bruce work together as a pseudo Batman Robin team. And he calls himself maybe the Avenging Eagle or something, jokingly, at the end, and that's jumping ahead. Now, we've established this, but there's a scene where Drake lives upstairs. Harvey and Bruce run in to save him. And Harvey, we have this whole, the next issue is Harvey running out with Drake. Starts where we think Harvey saved Drake. But really, it's this idea that the universe has multiple outcomes and plausibility based on our actions. And we really get into the Two-Face motif in this, where Harvey is now Two-Face, of like a Schrodinger's cat. Both options exist together. Okay, so now both options exist, possibility, all this type stuff. And that's really the crux of this point of like with the coin is both options exist at all times until you make a choice. And we have that at the end where Bruce flips the coin himself for an outcome. And okay. From there, the story, it works. Harvey sends Barbara some information that Bruce is Batman, proof. A scene where Bruce tries to rescue Two-Face, and Two-Face has these documents. Now, what we find out was there was a heist that everyone thought was for this $31 million that Two-Face later re-steals and gives out to the poor like Robin Hood. But really, it was the documents proving the corruption of Gotham and the politicians. Go figure. The story ends at a unique place because, of course, Two-Face dies because he makes the choice while Bruce is trying to stop him. And it's not a bad version of the Billy D. Two-Face, though some of his motives and actions I don't like, but it does feel in line with the universe. Now, we also get setups in this story for a Dr. Q that's on TV. Catwoman does come back because Catwoman does cause some problems that causes issues for Bruce and Drake as they're trying to get their story straight. All in all, it is a good third-esque Batman in that Keaton Burton universe. That's all I'm going to say. So I do recommend Shadows. I think it uses all the characters well, and it does feel good. Like it's like a B plus. It's a B plus. And I do recommend checking that out. Okay. If you're a fan, I don't understand when they start these projects and they start releasing them and they release a couple of issues on time and then all of a sudden everything's out of whack and we don't get the comics for years or more. But that is Batman Shadows. Now, the newest one that was recently completed, Batman Echoes. This was the big follow-up to that. It started in 2023 and finished in 2025. It's only 6 freaking issues. As of this recording, it has not been collected as a trade on the app or released. That will have, I think, late October, because I pre-ordered it, then I read the individual issues and canceled my pre-order. This is going to be Scarecrow, which Scarecrow is influenced by the look of like a Jeff Goldblum. And it starts out interesting enough where Bruce is working with Alfred and Winston Drake. And he is in Arkham. And he is hiding out under the name of, they use the name Robert Lowry, which, and I always forget the other one. Lewis Wilson. There we go. And then the name Lewis Wilson is also used. Both of those men, I like that. It's probably the best thing that this book does because it gives birth to those two names are the original actors that played Batman in the serials that most people really wish they could forget ever existed or nobody's ever seen. Most people think of Batman starting with Adam West. So I do appreciate that kind of reference, that call out, and at least some return. Now, with this, what we learn is Hugo Strange was killed. Now, there hadn't been Hugo Strange mentioned in the previous book. And I guess Batman was friends with Hugo Strange because he's there to find out about his death. And basically, Jonathan Crane's doing his Scarecrow stuff. And it's neat, but Scarecrow looks good, but it's completely misused in this story. Completely misused, undervalued. And I really get tired of the big trope of Scarecrow accidentally using his own stuff on himself. I really am a fan of Scarecrow doing his own thing, treating himself, and overcoming his fear. I think that's scarier when his fear gas doesn't work against him. And he's working on eliminating his fear because he's supposed to be the master of fear. Scarecrow is completely botched in this. The Harley Quinn story is she's working with some patients and everyone wants to find out this mystery who they thought was Firefly, Lewis Wilson. Person, which is really Bruce undercover. She wants to do her therapy. She's doing like a type of masked persona therapy where she has patients dress up as what they love or they fear or their disguises. This is where she bursts her Harley Quinn clown persona. She's trying to get ratings for her show, and she gets tricked by her producers and stuff to where it's their idea, he gets the bump, Harley gets tossed. And it's really a recycled plot of the Batman cartoon. The Harley story is pretty strong, but it feels like a recycled plot of the Batman cartoon. If you're going to try to reinvent Harley a little bit, you're doing it here where the Joker is really not an element. You know, they did a good version on Batman Caped Crusader, that animated show, but this just feels recycled to where Harley eventually trying to trick her way out where she's faking an escape of Arkham with the patients. She basically dons and consumes her persona. While in there, Bruce gets visits and we see how he's working with Winston. Winston at one point shows up with a Nightwing suit where he looks like Batman and Robin's version of Nightwing still with a hood. At one point, Barbara, through her investigation and confronting Bruce, has to help Bruce and puts on an extra Batman costume, thus kind of being like Batgirl. So this is like their version of Batman and Robin. We now have Nightwing as Robin, somewhat of a Batgirl, and Bruce. Commissioner Gordon is passed away. So Barbara is now in charge as her father, Jim Gordon, had died in the previous book, Shadows, which I didn't mention. Sorry. So that is the setup there. And then while in Arkham, Batman meets Edward Nigel Maynard, which I think is probably the most clever name for Mr. Enigma, the Riddler. First of all, I laugh because my wife's maiden name is Maynard, and she loves the Riddler. It's always been one of her favorite villains. So we have that element in this story. And, you know, it ends with Ra's al Ghul showing up. So now we have this plot line that feels very, very much like Batman Begins, with a sprinkle of what they did on Gotham Knights. So this really feels like Sam Hamm had just consumed a bunch of Batman media, put it in a bowl, dumped it out. Riddler working alongside Ra's al Ghul, Batman Begins here. It just felt flat. This is definitely a D-. Not completely an F, D-. So we have our characters in Shadows. Now, I say this because if we just took, it's kind of like Batman 89, the film. It's kind of like how the Halloween franchise works. And that's part of our conversation. We have that movie and then all these other timelines. So, timeline A, a film alone. Batman Returns. Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. Then the Flash messes everything up. Okay? We already talked about our two outliers. Second timeline is where we are right now. Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Shadows, Batman Echoes. The next is what we'll talk about next, and that will be the John Jackson Miller book, Batman Resurrection.
There is something I meant to add. There technically is a lost Keaton Batman story in the nether realm of Keaton. Now, we talked about the ones we didn't mention earlier real quick was the Flash and the continuity of the Infinite Crisis. But the Batgirl film, we can speculate that it exists in the continuity of the Flash, where at the end there was 3 endings for the Flash. One had him come back, and there was Superman, Supergirl, so it's Henry Cavill, Sasha Calle, and Michael Keaton's Batman. And then the one that we got with George Clooney showing up, there's photos online of Keaton's Batman, his Bruce in the same suit that Clooney was. And then there's one that was just Supergirl and Keaton's Batman when the Flash returned. So it's the theory that continuity of Keaton's Bruce in that world is where the Batgirl movie would have been. We know that Keaton's Batman existed in the Batgirl movie. There's photos behind the scenes, and all indications pointed to oh my gosh, just blocked and lost his name, being Jim Gordon. Not J. Jonah Jameson, but the actor who plays J. Jonah Jameson. Why am I'm always so good with names, and now I'm not. J.K. Simmons, jeez. The Jim Gordon from the Justice League films, both versions, being the Jim Gordon of Leslie Grace's Batgirl. And we know that Michael Keaton was supposed to be in that film. So that's the other lost Keaton-like story that doesn't fit into any of this continuity, but exists in this other Keaton verse. And I've said before, if the Flash had just been a story of him traveling to another Earth where his mom was alive, and on that Earth was Keaton's Batman's universe, we could have gotten this kind of Batman Returns 2.0, type thing, but we didn't. Hey, I break into this episode for something really cool. I'm actually driving, and I just wanted to say this. I'm really excited. I just got a message from my buddy Phill from Capes and Lunatics. We will be doing an interview with John Jackson Miller. So if you have not listened to that episode, because the time you reach this episode, that episode will be in the past, because I was recording this special from Batman Day, because it takes a while to read books. But there was also a previous episode of Capes and Lunatics back in 2024 with John Jackson Miller after Batman Resurrection. So this will be a follow-up about Batman Revolution. It'll help shine light on some of our discussion points. So it'll be a really nice kind of companion. But check that out. And John did post that he says that you can read the stories in Batman 89, Resurrection, Revolution, then Batman Returns, then Batman Shadows, then Batman Echoes. So I'm really interested in how Echoes and Revolution work.
I'm back having done Batman, the novelization, and just some differences from the novel. Batman is held at gunpoint by the police at Axis Chemical. He raises his hands as is to surrender, but then throws 2 smoke capsules against the cops to be able to fly away. The alternate moment is also present in the comic adaptation. The deleted horse riding scene at Wayne Manor with Bruce and Vicky, which originally was part of the Sean Young incident, is in the novelization. It is revealed that both the Joker and Alicia were skilled at vocal impersonations. Joker, imitating Bruce's voice, called Vicky and invited her to lunch at the Fugelheim Cafe. Then Alicia, pretending to be Vicky, called Alfred and told him she had accepted Bruce's invitation. Not sure how that works, but okay. It is revealed when Batman enters the cathedral at Story's End that he fights not to faint and fade in and out of present, thinking back on his parents' murders. Joker laughs madly when he falls from the helicopter instead of screaming. All those are nice little incidents and things to have just, there. As we go into this, you're going to hear my thoughts before getting to talk to John Jackson Miller. Welcome. So, everyone, I've been going through this with reviewing Batman, the Keaton verse, and this recording is actually a re-recording. My first recording was damaged and lost of my review on Batman Resurrection. So I'm redoing this from my notes and memory because I don't have everything in front of me, and I apologize. But Batman Resurrection takes place 6 months after Batman the story, and it took me too long to read this book. I had it from the library a couple of times, and then I saw on Batman Day, when we all sit down to read, the digital library had on sale for $2. So I purchased it for $2, and I began reading it on Batman Day and became enraptured in the book and read it until its completion. And then I was so excited for the next one. But this book, really, John Jackson Miller takes the time with this to introduce new characters that feel of this time and expand on the characters that we do know. Knox is played. We meet Selina. We meet Max Schreck, who's actually passing out masks to clowns to help create anarchy and get some things that he wants done, with buildings being burnt, and actually employing Lawrence, who was one of the Joker's thugs that had lived. Jackson Miller takes his time breaking down Batman in the cathedral, and the plot revolves around Clayface, and Clayface being used to make everyone think the Joker has returned by this mysterious character who we learn is Dr. Hugo Strange. And Miller does a great job of introducing new characters to us and tying the world together. Batman's inventions, the Roost. It feels like the same type of plot and style that we would get at that time. The technology doesn't advance, the characters don't advance, but yet he does take the time to make us feel like we know this world and we're back in it, but we're still expanding on Alexander Knox working at the Gotham Globe. He takes little things that we've seen in the films, and I'm telling you, this reading the book and then watching the Burton films is a new experience. The way he's tied everything together, eliminating plot holes, and using characters in the background to be characters that we will later come to know, like Norman Pincus, who is this voice. We are introduced to the strong man from the Red Triangle Gang, who will, of course, appear in Batman Returns. We also get shout-outs to characters like Barbara Gordon, who gets name-dropped, as well as Winston Drake. Right? Is it Winston Drake or Drake Winston? I get it backwards. I don't know why. It's Drake Winston, isn't it? Yeah. It's just a name that's really flippable. And who would be Robin in Batman Shadows. I can't praise this book enough. Reading it, I couldn't put it down. The Basil Karlo's Clayface and what he goes through feels very much like a Tim Burton style Clayface and sympathetic villain, while you have your main villain being Dr. Hugo Strange, explaining that, you know, Bruce is expanding his Batman operation. The need for being able, when he's in the cave or whatever, seeing the signal, and it talks about how he creates the mirrors and everything, the reflection process that we would later see in Batman Returns, shining through his home for that great brooding scene. Also, it goes into his gadgets, and it goes into excuse me, it goes into Jack Napier's history, the Access Chemicals, who was working there, who was part of it, that Hugo Strange was there under a false name and identity, helping Jack Napier. It even talks about the surgeon who operates on Jack Napier when he became the Joker. So all these things and elements pulls it all together in a tight story that expands the world. We get drops in John Jackson's writing about Metropolis and the Daily Planet, which is awesome. And we also get, foreshadowing of things to come that I appreciate with just the introduction of Selina Kyle, so that if you were to read these books and go into Batman Returns, it's a whole new experience of story. This is the way tie-in material should work. The bullet that the Joker takes down the Batwing with is mentioned and explained, and I really wish I would have all my notes, and I'm sorry that I had to re-record all this, and it's been months since I've read the book. But it's a high praise and a high read, and just I've really enjoyed being back in the Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman universe. I made a playlist of all the music that's inspired by it, and it's been a good time. So I highly recommend those, and stick around for the more of this episode.
So here we go, the discussion of Batman Revolution. I'm in the car driving, and I'm doing this little by little because this book is large. It's a think piece because as the first book was pulling a lot from the first movie, this is pulling more from the first book. And John Jackson Miller had stated that the two books are kind of like one story. And I've recently been listening to the novelizations of the Batman films. I did Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. I'm kind of going in a weird order. But I say that because you can see the difference of a screenplay turned into a novel and a novel. And part of me, as much as I love these books that John Jackson Miller is writing, part of me wishes he was writing as if he was really making it a movie. Because there's so much in this that if they were to do a movie, the product of these films would be a lot slimmer. When you really look at the Burton films, if you were to novelize but anyways, so the novelization process is interesting. I'm enjoying this book. There's a lot in it. I have a lot of questions. There's still some great continuity, from the previous book where it picks up and moving forward. And if you were to read these books, I wonder if you were to watch Batman 89, then read these books, and then watch Batman Returns, how much it would enhance your enjoyment of that film. Because John Jackson Miller is really strategically creating space for Batman Returns to exist. From little things in the story so far about the sewer or the water below the cave flooding it up more because he's making like the bat boat, to things like the library being dismantled and the statues being moved and this new park area being made in downtown Gotham, which is pretty much where things take place in Batman Returns. So it's a very great way of connecting the films, the differences, and enhancing those experiences. Alexander Knox being a main player, I really like. I do enjoy the drops about the Daily Planet and Metropolis, and just the continuing threads about the characters and the world that we're building in this Gotham. And Bruce talking about not needing a partner and working alone. It's all really set up. So I really can't wait to read this. I'll maybe reread Shadows again because of the way this ends. And I have an inkling on how part of this might end. So I'm very, very curious. But I will continue to update everyone as I read. Like I said, as I digest this book. But I wanted to get some thoughts out as we go into this story because I'm really enjoying it. I made a playlist consisting of music of the Keaton Batman. And just kind of having that play sometimes as I'm reading, it enhances the enjoyment. And I haven't been this excited for really reading in a long time. So I recommend everyone get these books. I bought them digitally because the first one was on sale for $2 on Batman Day, and then it was like $14 for the new one. But I am going to buy it on hardback too because I really do like having this. And I like highlighting my books too on parts that stick out to me and just having that physical capability of flipping around.
And here it is, our conclusion of the return to the Keaton verse with Batman Revolution, written by John Jackson Miller. Now this is done. I had just finished the book and I'm still processing it, so book reviews are something new, but I want to talk about how, first of all, John Jackson Miller does an amazing job of taking things so that there are no plot holes in Batman or Batman Returns as two films. He's explained everything from, if I did not say this before, the bullet that the Joker used to take down the Batwing was a special new kind of bullet that was military grade that had electrical interference that helped destroy and bring down the Batwing. Things like that. He talks about Revolution picking up exactly where the other book ends. And it's now summer and we're dealing with the Riddler. But what's interesting with his Riddler is his Riddler goes by the name Norman Pincus. And Norman Pincus is also uses the alias of the Bookworm when he calls the police hotline. So for any of you Batman fans out there hearing the Bookworm, it's a big deal. It's definitely a callback to Batman 66 because the Bookworm has not been anything that's been used since then. It really makes you want to go back and reread, watch the Batman films again, because the guy that is next to Jack Napier when the Waynes are murdered is revealed to be Joe Chill. And you learn that Norman Pincus, just by reading the newspapers and being brilliant, he figured it out and he wrote a letter to the police that Jack Napier was the one that killed the Waynes, but his mom never mailed the letter. And Norman is very much a character in this that gets misused. Knox is back, Selina's back, and they all work well together. We learn that the statues that we see and the reason why they're so prominent in Batman Returns in that one area is all explained as being an area that's created during the events of this book. And it's really quite interesting because it's things you never really thought of. And it really helps make Shrek prominent. And it makes you think. Now, I did my notes as much as I could have, but he does explain in the book that, which I love, is the only one I'm not quite sure of is what exactly why Dent is not present in Batman Returns. Knox, Bruce does come through, gets him a grant, and gets him on a special assignment as he leaves the globe. Part of it is because Bruce realizes that Knox is too close to both him and Batman, and he's too good of a reporter that he would put it together that Bruce is Batman. So that explains why no more Alexander Knox, which I'm glad he wasn't killed off. We're introduced to a character called the Archer, who is a cello playing assassin. And one thing to think about when reading these is books definitely explain, and as I'm recording this, I've done the novelizations of Batman Returns, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin. And I have not done Batman 89 yet. And just the idea of taking a screenplay and then turning it into a book and what you can add to compared to taking these books and trying to thin them down into a movie is much different. And that's just something to think about. So this is like two movies, but it's all one massive story. Now, the artist who did the Batman comic books did release art for what Norman Pincus would look like as the Riddler. And I kind of wonder, because we're introduced to the Bat van, which I had to chuckle at driving, a minivan. So that and a couple of different Batman suits are in this for his. But we meet a character that, what's interesting is John Jackson Miller takes another uniquely distorted character and brings it to life, and that's Killer Moth. Killer Moth is present in this story very prominently. And it's funny because he's such a crazily weird character. But he does so amazingly written in the hands of Miller. And that leads to our other protagonist here, antagonist of Camille. And it just kind of, this is where I get a little frustrated, is I'm glad they didn't do anything with the League of Shadows or this, but Camille's story and the whole plot of this book with this secret society back at the American Revolution, to me, almost takes away from some of the Batmanness of it. With the rich history that Gotham has, it expands on it, but it feels very much of the time. So I don't know. I go back and forth because it's weird because I felt like, when I'm learning this history about, and they really make Shrek so a part of this that you almost wish they could go back and hide some Shrek Easter eggs in Batman 89, like his store or something, because, going from reading these books into Batman Returns works. It works very well. But just, watching the films and how prominent Batman and Shrek is interesting. So Max really does play up as becomes a huge part of this whole series. But Norman is interesting because Norman's story in this reminds me a little bit of the Riddler from the Batman and a little bit of the Arthur Fleck from the Joker. And much like how Batman Returns played out, where Max Schreck was this character you never heard of that took so much of the spotlight of Batman Returns, the Camille character in this takes so much time that it takes away from, I think, what we could experience. But much like a book, where a book can do as much as they want when they want to and have no limits, we can't get that in a film. But the book is a great connective tissue. At the end of the book, we do see Hugo Strange again, that he is in Arkham working, which helps set up his role. We do get introduced to the Edward Nigel Maynard character in a couple passages, and I feel like I'm curious about what exactly his role is, because Norman Pincus at the end is basically like a redeemed person of how he was used, and he's horribly damaged trying to save Gotham at the end, and he's in the hospital. And I just kind of wonder if the Edward Nigel Maynard, who really is Edward Nigma, which we learned is Edward Nigma is a pen name that was created by the Globe. And Knox even names the Riddler and doesn't even realize he does in an off joke. And it was a very powerful read. And there's still a lot to process, and I'm going to have a more in-depth conversation on this book. But this is just kind of how the Burton Keaton universe of Batman has expanded, and it's very welcomed. So check out the book. Sadly, there doesn't seem to be another book. It was just the two. Which is interesting because now it's like if Jackson Miller was to do anything else, it would have to take place after Batman Shadows. And if you remember, Batman Echoes. And if you remember, I was not a fan of Batman Echoes. I felt like they misused the Scarecrow and did not feel very original, as Jackson Miller's writing comes to life and feels more full. And I would like to see what he would do if he could have done the next installment, which Sam Hamm had done. So it's kind of a bummer there. But where he would take Batman, I would love to see. So check out the book and your feelings. I'm still processing. It does feel like the type of Riddler that we would see, though, from that era. And without further ado, my interview with Capes and Lunatics and John Jackson Miller. If after the interview, if I have any quick questions,
sure.
I have like at the book that we spoilery that I can ask.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Capes and Lunatics. It's me, Phill. Tyler is with me this time.
Hello, everybody.
And we are here to talk to returning guest. I did talk to this gentleman last year. I think we just talked in December when the first book came out. Mr. John Jackson Miller, who has his,
my card.
Oh, nice.
I actually got that from a fan in Greece, of all places.
Oh, wow.
That was a convention earlier this year.
That's awesome.
Definitely glad to be here.
But yes, talking the sequel to his first book, which was kind of a sequel to a movie. Yes, this time we're talking Batman Revolution.
Here we go.
Yes, and I swear, since this book came out, you've been testing the media literacy of the internet. I think, because I see all kinds of articles. Oh, nice. Yes.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, I keep seeing articles that be like, oh, Michael Keaton's Batman finally gets like a worthy sequel, and people are like, "How are they doing this? Well, Keaton's too old," and it's just like people.
One of those sites keeps resharing their article with the questionable headline, and it popped up again yesterday, and I'm like, well, first of all, it's 4 weeks after the book came out, but otherwise, it's like, yeah, it's a novel, folks. It's I can't speak for that one, but there are a lot of these sites that are more or less written by articles written by AI these days. Some of these pieces, and there's nuance to this sort of thing, explaining exactly what it is we're doing, and the general public is not necessarily clued in. Oh, there are comics. Oh, there are also novels. Oh, there are also whatever. And if that confuses most people in general, you can imagine what a computer would think.
I just want to say, like, I think it's funny that they say that, but yet this is the sequel to the second book, which was still a sequel to.
You could say they're interquels if you want to. They take place in between the two. No,
and I think that is genius. Like, I love reading, period. But you can ask my wife and my kids, reading these two books, because I reread Resurrection, leading up to Revolution. Yeah. So I read them all within a month and a half span, and I was just like, they're so they just pull you in.
Yeah.
They captivate you. And I swear I have to ask you, did you sit down and watch both movies and make a list like, okay, nope, I'm going to fix this plot hole, going to fix this plot hole, going to fix this plot hole?
Nope.
Because
he's seen them enough.
The writing is so... It's just like, you're so beautiful of like being able to connect. Why does he do this in returns? How does he logically get there?
Well, here's the thing. I do a lecture series at conventions, various things, Star Wars, Star Trek shows, about writing in a shared universe, and I think like my 10th commandment is that we're not just there to connect the dots. We're not there to connect stories together. How stories connect is not a story. Is actually what it is. And I'm not there to explain every fill the plot holes or whatever. It just so happens that there were opportunities all over the place in these two basic documents, which are these. What are we working with as canon here? It's 240 minutes of film, and plus the Pepsi commercial, or whatever it was. So, I go back to where I started with this. I was reviewing the movie for my college newspaper. I ended up doing a second review at the end of the summer for the Welcome Back issue. Students coming back, to campus because nobody was there in the summer, which is again why I was able to go see the movie 10 times because I had nothing else to do. And by the time I wrote that second review, I had questions, and I listed, okay, what are these guys doing in the cathedral? What's this business about I was a kid when I killed your parents? What does that possibly mean? Just various, why is he still doing this after, if the Joker is really the person who killed his parents, why is he still doing this? And so I figured, all right, let me thread these things together in a story. Actually, no, I didn't say that. The first place I put that after that review, I had a column in Comics Buyer's Guide in 1999. So we're talking the 10-year anniversary, and I write, I got a way to bring the Joker back. I write, here's a way to use plot holes, the blown lines, and in fact that's really pretty much what it is. They're continuity errors and blown lines is what it is, or things cut together weird. And I'm like, well, I think you could probably, of course, nobody in comics is ever dead, unless you can see the body, and usually not even then. That was said by Len Wein, creator of Wolverine, who we actually had that on our wall at Comics Buyer's Guide, as Len Wein's law, and we would have had no problem at all, any of us, thinking about a way to resurrect any character. I think if you've been in comics, and this was my way. I've got a way to do something with Joker, but of course there was nothing to say for it, nothing to do about it, because we weren't going to bring any of those characters back. I didn't think anybody would ever bring those characters back. And then what kind of happens is you got Batman 66 comics happening about 15 years ago, and that begins to open the door a crack to maybe we might be able to license just one corner of the universe, and then once Sam Hamm and Joe Quinones start doing their comics at DC, and once Michael Keaton shows up as Batman in the Flash, everything pointed in the right direction. So it was the case that when they approached me, I said, here, what I want to do, I want to put my stories in between the two films, and
genius.
And because there was some logic to it. They were already doing the comics set after Batman Returns, and I didn't want to step on what they were doing or get in the mess of their ongoing story as it's evolving. These things can change from script to page, and I didn't want to be in the middle of all of that. And then I'm thinking, well, what is the thing that most people have seen? What's the thing that the largest possible audience is aware of? It's that first movie. So I said, I'm going to hug the first movie. I'm gonna hug the first movie. And if I'm gonna do that, what would you guys say to letting me try out my resurrection plan? And again, back in the 90s, I was not envisioning a role for any of the other characters that actually appear in that resurrection novel. So that novel's got Clayface in it. It's got another villain that we don't talk about because we're saving the surprise. But
just thumbs up.
But there you go. But what happens is, once I start thinking about it, I'm like, okay, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this, and I can work all these things into Bruce Wayne's tortured psyche, and I can have Alfred ask the question, why are you still doing this? And dig into some other questions like, what's it like for all these other people in Gotham City now that he's around? And then we can go from there. So yeah.
I will say your books have enhanced my viewing of the films. So as I was reading your books, I couldn't wait to get back to watching the films.
Yeah.
And it has enhanced, because I did a whole deep dive back in what I was calling the Keaton universe, because I read both your novels. I read the 2 graphic novel collections by Sam Hamm, and then watched the films. And it was just an immersive experience, and I really enjoyed your books.
I appreciate it. I mentioned, I didn't have to go back and really rewatch. There were a scene here and there that I would have to rewatch. Lawrence, I had to make sure Lawrence was alive. I figured, okay, yeah, we don't see the body. He doesn't go screaming down a hole in the cathedral like the poor boxer does. He can walk back from that. For the second book, I was freeze framing things like the files that Bruce Wayne had on his parents. The Gotham Globe from the time. And again, I was just handling that stuff like that. These are kind of fun Easter egg-ish kind of things. But if I'm gonna have the headline from the Gotham Globe when Bruce Wayne, his parents were murdered, I want the exact headline. So so those were the reasons that I would go back and watch it. And again, just in the last year, I've seen the first movie twice. Once I watched it as a rewatch with Carl Newman, who is the Batman's movement double in the film. Did that for something on YouTube, and then I also got to go see Batman in concert in Milwaukee, and that was actually the day that I got my copy of the new book, and that was a great place to actually debut the look of the book, because I had not even seen the back cover. I didn't realize.
I love that back cover.
I didn't realize that I drew the back cover.
Really?
So, well, that's not my question mark. That was the question mark was one of their possible things to maybe do on the cover, until we came to our senses and realized this is the most successful advertising image in movie history. We're not going to go away from that. But once we had a slogan from the Riddler, and I happened to have a green paint pen that I've been using for my posters, I just went ahead and said, well, just let me just scrawl this out, and I scanned it in and sent it in, and they were like, yeah, we're here for it. And so
nice.
I don't get an art credit, but that's all right. That's I also designed the puzzles in the second book too. Actually, I designed the main puzzle. I didn't do the chapter puzzles, although they were my idea. The section title puzzles. That was Tom Holler, the editor, who designed the word searches.
I was gonna say that, you know what would have been great? Maybe just like a little link or something in the book. Be like, here, you can go to this website, download the puzzle, so you don't have to mark up your book or anything.
Well, we figured that people can photograph it and or photocopy it or whatever, or buy another book. Well, if we had infinite time, we could have done a lot more. And there's a point at which you don't want to get too gimmicky with it.
Yeah.
But the idea of the puzzle in the second book was I wanted to actually have an example of what our Riddler character was designing for the newspaper. I wanted this particular one puzzle that's at the very front of the book, and we have the answers in the back. The one puzzle at the very front of the book. We hear about that puzzle from Alfred, who is working it, Bruce, who later works the puzzle, Selena Kyle it makes a reference to it at some point, and the whole idea was this thing is the equivalent of a one of these Wordle crazes like we have now. Back in the 80s, what did we have? We had Trivial Pursuit, the board game that was a craze. What else did we have in the late 80s? People were you'd have contests which you'd call 1-900 numbers, and one of the things about the 1-900 numbers was every call cost like 75 cents or whatever it was, of which the phone company took its piece, and then you took your piece. And I'm like, okay, I can actually do something with the technology of the age, and with the newspapers that what they would have been doing back then, or could have been doing back then, and so I always try to remain true to what was going on in that sort of weird muddled time frame that we get in these pictures. It's a combination of 1939 and 1989. There's never any technology or references after 1992 when the second film comes out. And so I'm real careful about that. I mean, I will eventually get my notes on my website about these books. But I mean, I was just really seriously. There's talk of a lung transplant in one of these books, and the first one is like 83. So again, everything like that, I'm kind of going, all right, that fits into our little corner here somewhere.
This, I mean, this is this book is great. I tell you, me and Tyler were texting every couple days saying, "Oh, where are you at? I'm on this chapter. Where am I at?" Because I couldn't put it down. Because even the days where I really didn't have any time, I would stay.
It was so bad, Phil. Okay, it was so bad. I bought it digitally just because
I pre-ordered.
It was easier for me to. We were at Kings Island in line for rides, and my son's sitting there next to mommy. I have my phone up and I'm reading because I'm like, I don't want to stop because I want to finish this. So we're in a 45-minute ride for a roller coaster. I'm like, what you doing? Reading this.
We released the book at New York Comic Con in advance of the second book, and on a Thursday, and somebody came back to me on a Friday. I read it.
I'm like, it's over 500 pages.
It's 550 pages long, and he's like, yeah, there are a lot of lines here. I don't know if you've noticed that.
See, he had my idea.
Well, he's got the physical book, but he wasn't going on roller coaster, so he wasn't going to.
Oh yeah. No, I told everyone on our show. I said, okay, take this as the compliment it is. I said this story. I said, again, sometimes you get a good Riddler story. Sometimes I'm like, this story made me give a shit about the Riddler. That's how good this was. I could not put it down.
In a sense, it's about a brand new character. I mean,
true.
We're using the trappings of the Riddler. I'm careful in there to insert quite a number of, riddle me this kind of jokes and things like that. I really did not want to do something where, he's a very hard character to write, because if you want to remain true to the whole thing back in the in the 40s when he comes out. In the first comics he appears in, you're doing this thing of, okay, I'm giving Batman the clues to catch me. Why? Or I'm giving Batman the clues that are going to lead him into a trap. And again, why would the Bruce Wayne, who has been shown in this movie to be a very smart guy, why would he fall for that? And so you have to go at it some other way, sideways. I mean, I think they do it's not a book or it's not a movie that I talk about very much because I haven't seen it as often. But I think the Batman really tries to cope with it. Really tries to come up with a way to make this character's modus operandi make sense and make it be thrilling and make it be other things. And again, I didn't want to copy that, so I figured, well, what I'll do is I'll use as my jumping off point a much older comic book and a much older concept. Back in '84, I think Mike Barr did a Batman special where the story was the player on the other side, and that story you imagined that there was another billionaire genius in Gotham City who would dress up in the cape and I can't remember even what his name was, but basically it was a one-shot kind of a deal. What if there was somebody out there, an opposite number to Batman, whereas everybody else, of course, in his rogues gallery is somebody who does something wildly different from what he does.
Oh, was it the Wraith? Was that the one with the Wraith or whatever? Or
that might have been it. Yeah. I can't remember, but it was a brown costume as opposed to.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because it wasn't that guy's parents killed by cops or something. They were like criminals killed by cops. So it was like
the idea was it was
opposite.
the inverse Batman or something like that. And that was all very much a stretch because you didn't ever see that character in 50 years of comics up to that point. Well, I don't have that to worry about. I've got 2 hours of movie behind me and my novel and my first novel. So if I want to, I could say, all right, well, there's been somebody in Gotham City that has been helping the cops on again the tip line. That was a thing in the 80s. That was a caller answering machine,
and you even dropped little hints like it towards the end of the first novel, yeah.
I very much appreciated the code name
that he was using while on the tip line. I thought that was.
I mean, I plucked a couple of names during this whole project from the 66 TV show, which again, was not something that I was a particular fan of, but it's at least in that time frame that we're okay with. I was on a panel in Minneapolis, Twin Cities Con, a week and a half ago, with Paul Dini, and first time we met. Great guy, a great creator, and it's something where I look at Harley Quinn. Would I have included Harley Quinn in my comics? Not comics, in my novels? Probably not, because she's outside that window.
Thank you. That was going to be my question to you.
I would probably not include Bane. Likewise, outside that window.
That was going to be my question to you. Were you ever tempted to use characters that didn't fit, that weren't around when Burton made his films?
No, and they're doing it in the comics. That's totally up to them. And I'm not going to tell Sam Hamm, don't use all the toys in the toy box, especially since, if you think about it, they're setting their stories as long as we're playing this game of our window is 1939 to 1992. Well, they're setting their stories a couple of years after. So you could imagine that it pulls those people in. I don't know. Again, this is just the sort of things fans think about. But no, I mean, my preference always was to lean towards the golden age as much as possible. Lean towards the earliest versions of things as much as possible. That's absolutely what we did with Clayface. But again, what we did with him, likewise with this Riddler, we turned it on its head. I more or less broke up Basil Carlo into two characters. The Carlo that would have appeared in the very, very, very beginning, and so likewise, I've heard people say, well, you actually you fuse these two different TV show characters into this one character in the new book. Well, maybe not, but again, it all still is in that time frame that fits. And so nothing feels like it's anachronistic to a 1989/1992 experience.
My question is, when you were crafting this version of the Riddler, in the back of your mind, were you ever picturing like Robin Williams?
I always say any fan casting is valid. Do I have people whose voices I hear? I've had novels where I had no idea what I wanted people to look like, where I've actually gone out and gone online and gotten images of this character, that character, this character, that character. I've said Oren Galt from my Kenobi novel. I mentally was picturing Sam Neill.
I just bought Kenobi, and I'm just.
Picture Sam Neill, and there you go. But I mean, and it's not necessarily that all these people are particularly famous. For the woman that runs the general store in Kenobi, I was imagining the woman we meet at the very end of Castaway, who's the redhead in the crossroad, and again, that only means something to me while I'm actually picturing it, but it's really got to be up to the fan to hear who they want to hear. That's also the approach in our audiobooks. We're not Will Dameron, who's doing a great job on these books. He's not trying to do a Jack Nicholson. He's not trying to do a Christopher Walken, because if that's what he was doing, that's all people would be judging it by.
Yeah.
And so that does not put us under the gun to say, okay, well now we need to make this character sound like this character or whatever else. In the comics, they depict folks as they want to depict them, and that's their thing. But yeah, I mean, look, if you want to talk about Williams, certainly he would have been capable of playing this character, because
it's that whole thing about he was talked about, rumored to be the Riddler at one point.
Well,
and all that.
Again, this is not, and this leans towards those clickbaity headline kind of things. It never was approached with that thought. It was never approached with. This has never been the what if is simply what if we could have told stories in between the two. It was not, can we fix history or anything like that. We have a character here who is both meek and also outgoing. And
I like the character. I thought it was a great way of. It felt like
he's got multiple voices.
A Riddler, like you said, the Batman, right?
Yeah.
It felt like that kind of a Riddler mixed with like the Frank Gorshin. Like I could see it being both versions as one person without it being untrue.
So I mean, I could visualize. I can visualize a lot of possible castings working, but again, it's a book.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, did you picture the Riddler as like kind of the opposite of yourself? Just because I know at the end you did go into like how your mother was like a librarian, but she encouraged you, whereas his mother did not.
I think not really necessarily at all. Well, it is true. I went from being introvert to extrovert while doing this job, because you can't survive nearly as long doing these talks if you have nothing to say or not able to fill an hour happily. But no, I mean, I've tried to say there's not a lot in his growing up that is identical to mine. I got a lot of support that he didn't. And again, we wonder what Batman's life would have been like without Alfred. And that is really one of the questions that comes up in this book. It's about the guidance that people have, the mentors that they have, whether they have the support that they need, when they need it.
And just the opportunities, like Bruce Wayne was born into money. Meanwhile, yeah.
Although yet again, as we've seen with some other characters, just having the money doesn't necessarily.
Yeah. You know what? That is a good segue, because I was going to say, I think the other great thing about these books, especially this one, like you really flesh out characters who in the movies really didn't get as much screen time as they should have, like Commissioner Gordon, Alexander Knox, and this one more than the last one, Max Schreck.
If you can picture that first movie with 20 minutes of 20 minutes of Max Schreck on the cutting room floor. Well, we kind of did fix the past in that regard.
Can you imagine Max Schreck at Casino Night at Wayne Manor in that first movie? Oh.
So it is, it is. So that is one of the major themes of this book is the guidance that people provide, and then also, certainly the issue of masters and servants, as we see with Batman and Alfred. That's a major Bruce and Alfred. That's a major thing going through this. Through all the stories, their relationship is the one enduring relationship through the two films, and you would imagine it would be so through the books as well.
Did you ever feel any pressure when finishing this book to make sure that you had all your characters where they need to be for Batman Returns?
It was, the Batman Returns was not the problem. The problem was, and it really wasn't a problem. The box I had to check was right up until the end. I was like, I need to get that last issue of Echoes, the last issue of the second Batman series, because I had the outline, I had the scripts, I had talked with everybody up there, I talked with Joe Quinones, but you still got to see the final page, because I was making changes in my Star Wars comics on the final page all the time, and the word balloons, that sort of thing, so I actually knew how my book interfaced with Echoes right when I began it, right at the very beginning, and again, part of it, that book took a while to come out, so I had
Yes, it did.
I had that material there, but things do evolve as the book goes along, and as elements get dropped or added, when you actually get paid.
Thank you for caring about that, because there are writers who would be like,
yes.
You know what, I don't care what they're doing in those comics. I'm just
I don't mind. I think it's part of the fun.
It gives the experience, because now I can watch the movie, your novels, Returns, comics, and then I have these two comics, and I have a grand story. Like, I was so excited in your first book when it mentions Winston.
Yeah.
Just watching TV, and I was like, oh.
And the thing is, if you want to, you can ignore them.
Yeah.
If you want to, you don't have to care that there are comics. It works either way. If you can read the comics and not have to read these books. My deal is, let's make everything fit, and let's make everything fit. But that's what I do. Even if things don't, look, I wrote the first Star Wars novel that is in the Lucasfilm Story Group era, where everything previous to that became Legends. Right away, I was putting elements from Legends in, and putting things in my Star Wars novel last year. There are all these references where you're going, well, that's all connected to Knight Errant, which was the series that I did, where the trade paperback just came out, and the Marvel Omnibus came out a week ago, with my comics for it, and again, you don't have to have read any of that other stuff, but if you want to consider it all part of the same thing, it still works. I was writing the first novel featuring the Anson Mount version of Captain Pike in Star Trek.
Nice.
So Star Trek Discovery Enterprise War was the book, and this takes place in between where we see Captain Pike in the cage and where we see him at the end of the first season of Discovery. And I realized, well, okay, we don't know who the engineer is on the Enterprise at this point. And they said, well, you can create somebody, and I did, and I gave this an entire character. But I also made reference to the fact that there had been this revolving door at this position all these previous years, and I name-checked every single engineer that had appeared in all of the Marvel Paramount comics that came out in 97, 96, 97. I mentioned characters that appeared in the little novels, various other things, and again, it's a one-off line. But what it does is it makes that one person, or 5 people, or 10 people, or whatever, feel seen. And and I don't consider that fan service if it's something that nobody else notices.
You'll probably say a writer doesn't need this, but would you say maybe a good writer pays attention to some of those details, like when you're working in a media where there's other forms of
because it's entirely possible to do something completely divorced from everything else and not have to go back and not have to go back and name check or Easter egg a bunch of stuff. I do it just because it's fun, and I do it because I spent a lot of time reading this stuff in the past. It validates what I knew, but it is by no means, as I say, we're not here just to show you everything you've ever seen. We're usually trying to show you something you haven't seen before. But again, if it's something that I don't mind doing, that's fine. And that this also goes for the the deep cut out of universe in jokes that I've got. I have at one point in the second book, Max Schreck uses the phrase "shame on you." Well, that's a line that he says in the second movie, and it's like, well, that sounds like Max Schreck. But at some point, he's referring to the Riddler's jokes, and he refers to them as crack-em-ups. And well, he doesn't say that in any movie, but Christopher Walken says that in one of his intro monologues in one of the episodes of Saturday Night Live. It's the only place I've ever heard that word, and I can only hear it in Christopher Walken's voice. And I'm like, okay, what's happened now is, the 5 people out there who remember that hosting gig and have heard that thing are gonna hear Walken in their head at that point. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, you should have just You should have just threw in. I need more cowbell.
Well, didn't do that. See, you can take this sort of thing too far. That is very, very light. That's very light. There are a few out of universe jokes in the movies. Because there are a few out of universe jokes in the movies, that sort of cracks the door. You can have a few. Mm-hmm. There are references to real life serial killers in Batman Returns. But you don't have anything that's just really ridiculously. This joke is clearly a reference to the TV show, or clearly a reference to something else. But I will say there are a lot of hidden jokes in my books.
And even just you're saying all these out of universe things. You go in the Revolutionary War, fictional Revolutionary War history with Gotham City, which you're like, oh, here's this real life documentary. This takes this fake Revolutionary War.
And the thing is, I work to make sure I fit that continuity too. So, I figured that this would be. I needed to find a way in the second book because I have people who have political ambitions, but the world of the movies is limited to Gotham City. We never ever leave Gotham City or the environs of the caves. We never go out of the county, basically. And so what I wanted to do is see, well, can I actually tie a major, world-changing historical movement to Gotham City in such a way that the interpretation of its history is going to change the way people see themselves, and people see that history. And so I went and looked, and I'm like, oh, well, this happened then. I know where I happen to think Gotham City is located geographically. and this might actually work. And then I did a little bit more research, and it worked out.
Oh yeah, there's been stories where the Batcave's was used in the Underground Railroad and stuff.
Yeah. But again, that's the trick. You gotta try to get some of the actual timeline details correct to make that to really sell that.
I wanted to share real quick one of my favorite lines from your book, and you'll understand while looking at me why this is one of my favorite lines in your book. It'd be a sorry newsroom indeed that could be fooled by a guy just wearing glasses. I loved it. I laughed.
Well, see, and that's one of those lines that's in a kind of a self-indulgent thing, but which has an out of universe nod, or not out of universe, but out of Gotham nod.
Little wings.
Or out of franchise nod, out of license nod, because we hadn't licensed the other part of the world. I'm really happy with the chance these books gave us to explore a few different workplaces. The Gotham Globe, I think, should feel like a real place now, or an expanded place. Shrek's department store we know a lot more about what it's like to work there.
I love that you had Fred. I love that Fred was there.
We have the first book gave us all about Gotham City's theater district. We learned about the hospitals. We learned about the Hall of Justice and setting scenes that would go these places. And so yeah, I mean, I think I used pretty much every opportunity that I could, picking up every little thread that was around.
Carl Grissom's his accountant.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
yes.
Well, where'd he go? He's not killed on the steps.
Oh my God, that scene when Batman finds him, I just saw a comic book in my head, just Batman stepping out of the shadows.
This is the trick. This is the trick.
Oh yeah.
So.
Another question I had with going back to what you're talking about with Echoes, one of the biggest questions I saw from some of the fans pop up in this book was there any I guess confusion on your Norman character versus Sam Hand's
well, that's what
Edward Nigel Maynard, like, were you like, oh, you created this guy? Okay, I got to make sure I mention this character in my book just to help in that continuity, or
I knew that character. Once I knew that character was appearing, I would say that we probably came first with what we were planning because we're way back earlier in the process here. Because the Riddler was right from the top of this project. He was always going to be book 2, but I was already working on how to deal with allowing Sam to do what Sam was going to do.
I think it works brilliantly.
Yeah, and it seemed logically and it seemed logical, and other elements like that. I think worked out. There's not a lot that I can't think a way around, and if I could actually make it actually serve the story, and show that this person's so popular he's getting followers, that works for me too.
And would you say, who's the main antagonist of this book? It's not your Riddler. It's not the mystery villain. There's some original characters, like, I don't know how deep you want to go into, but a certain young lady, is she?
Well, that gets tricky. Because I don't want to go too far into spoiler territory.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say, there are people here who are fanning the flames of the bad feeling, the bad experience that many people in Gotham City have had living there. What do we know from the first book, or not first book, from the first movie? We know that Gotham City is bankrupt. We know that the police are bad enough at their jobs that Batman must exist. We know that there is a major difference between the very rich and the very poor. In terms of the soaring heights of the city, and then what's going on the ground level. We know we have a government that is designing nerve gas and just leaving it around. We know that there is a war in Corto Maltese. We don't know anything about it other than it exists and that it's terrible. We know that the people are so desperate for financial gain that they will go out and run into the street to go to a parade run by a lunatic who has already tried to poison the city just because he's going to drop $10 million on the crowd. And so there's a lot of stuff going on there. We also have political things happening in the second movie where they're recalling the mayor and they're about to elect a penguin. And you've got protesters and people bringing fresh produce to rallies and things like that.
What's this guy's credentials? He grew up in the sewer. Okay, let's make him mayor. Okay.
Well, I mean, and so there had to be. I mean, there's definitely discontent, and I'm like, okay, fine. Let's dig into a certain kind of character, or a certain kind of thing that feels like it would fit into a Tim Burton movie. You got in the 1970s. You have a period where there's lots of bombings and assassinations, and there are a lot of fringe groups that have mottos and names and intentions that don't necessarily make a lot of sense, and often they're battling each other. And they are in their own way, like the street gangs that would battle each other, or the mob families that would battle each other. These people have got to be sharing Gotham City too, and so you do have this sort of fight that's going on over this city's promise, and whether that promise has been honestly kept or not. And this is something where I can have the Riddler walk into this situation, or a future Riddler walk into this situation, and we hit him with enough that he looks like the kind of hero that those people would consider a hero. The people that are they stop battling each other long enough to take him on and then battle Batman.
Oh yeah, everything is again the Revolutionary War stuff, and just the current state of Gotham, and it's just well, the political stuff. It's like this stuff never seems to go out of style, with discontent and.
Well, we thought about do we bring in the president or something like that? And we're like, no. The most we could do is the governor, because everybody knows that Gotham City is probably, it's one of these places where we have a gargantuan city with a big state attached, that is like, here's the remote capital, and Gotham City is not itself the capital of the place, and whoever is running for governor is always running against Gotham City.
I have to ask, would you ever consider writing a book like in the Christopher Reeve Superman universe?
Anything is possible. Why that is probably less possible is just because we're getting more and more distance in the time frame from that material, and also there's an active Superman on screen now, and so I would think there might be some reluctance to create confusion there. I will say that the bigger issue is probably we have in Batman a film and a character that has his audience is 10 years younger based on those movies, and they did do the Superman 78 comics. I don't know how well they did relative to the Batman 89 ones, and it's ironic for me to say that because I still run Comicron, and for 25 years I was charting the sales charts every single month, but that all ended in 2021. So
as I was reading this, I was like, man, like your writing skills and the way you write in fandom and the different genres, I was like, if anyone were to write the book of like if Christopher Reeve's Superman got to meet Helen Slater's Supergirl, I was like, I think John's up for the chance.
It's as I say, anything's possible, but again, already right there, how many people in the reading audience have seen that movie? Okay,
smaller.
And so it always, people are always asking me, what's your dream project to work on? Well, this one I never dreamt of because I never thought you could actually do just Tim Burton Batman movies. But I would always be suggesting things like Max Headroom or something where it's a 40-year-old TV show that the fandom is probably me and 5 other people at this point.
Here's a tough question. Which universe do you prefer to write in? Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Trek or Star Wars? Okay,
yeah. Which one?
You didn't throw Batman in there, so that's.
Oh, I know. This is the star battle. Which one? Which one?
The age-old debate.
No,
Yeah.
it absolutely depends on what I'm trying to do. If I'm trying to do something where where science is a part of it, where world history is a part of it, where I can actually refer to world history, where I can actually refer to science. I can't do either of those things in Star Wars. I'm able to do that in Star Trek all the time. My Strange New Worlds novel, The High Country. I mean, it's a Western, or as my editor said, it's not a Western. She says it's a science fiction novel with horses in it. But I did a Western for Star Wars too. It was Kenobi, but it's not a Western in any sense of there's horses running around. There are saddles. I did have to get an equestrian advisor because we needed to actually know how the saddles on dewbacks work for the green lizards. But yeah, it just absolutely depends on what I'm trying to do. If I'm trying to do Star Wars, I can doing something that's a lot lighter and funnier. I can get away with it at novel length probably a lot easier than I can do Star Trek. My most recent Star Wars novel, The Living Force back there. It's the Jedi Council on spring break basically, and the overall plot is so light it has to be kept under a paperweight so that it doesn't float off. But again, that humor is in the movies. There's a lot of it. There's humor in the Star Trek world too. It's just you don't often see it carried for an entire show, unless you've got the Trouble with Tribbles or something like that.
All right, I have a 2-part question. First, would you ever be? It's been a while, I think, but would you ever be interested in even just for a limited time doing comics again, comic books?
Well, I've been doing them. I was doing a comics project that actually got shelved in the middle of all this. Never got announced. Previous to that, I did I think the last series I did the 40th anniversary series for Battlestar Galactica, and that was at Dynamite. And then they had me take on a series for a video game that was coming out called Skull and Bones, and then the video game didn't come out, and so the comics sat on the shelf for about a year, and then they came out in France before the game did, and then the game came out, and I think it's already gone. But the comics did come out, I certainly I would do comics again. I'm talking with people all the time. The trick with comics and novels is they're hard to do at the same time, because those comic books are constantly coming back to you. The novel will come back to you just once, or rather, it'll come back to you several times, but it comes back to you all at once. Whereas you will be writing issue 5 and issue 4. The final lettered pages will be coming back to you. Issue 3, the pencil pages will be coming back to you. And issue 2, or I've got that backwards. But you know what I mean. I mean, it's a monthly series. You've got things at multiple stages that all have to have attention, and they're all crying out for it all the time.
Yeah, because I know this is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. See what I did there?
Yeah.
But your Iron Man run, I was hoping maybe sometime next year that maybe we can have you back and I could talk to you about your Iron Man.
Well, it was the 20th anniversary of it last year. It is again that was an interesting time. It was again literally the beginning of my career writing. Was the Crimson Dynamo, a series I did, which led to Iron Man. And those 19 issues is what it turned out to be. That got me Star Wars and everything else. And it was a very, very hectic time. And we were bi-weekly for half of that run.
Oh yeah,
we were bi-weekly for half of that run. And at one point, we were heading towards a big event that never happened.
Oh.
And then suddenly we're heading towards Avengers Disassembled, and I got to wrap things up. And but that was a case where again I look back at everything because I had the whole series all the way back to Tales of Suspense 39, and I wanted to actually name check elements from all across that timeline.
Oh wow!
And I wanted to write the series as if, it was Tales of Suspense, 101, as if it was still the Tony Stark of the '60s to a degree.
Oh wow!
And so yeah, and I kind of really. I said to myself, when am I going to get a chance to do this again? I might never get a chance to do this again. So I swung for the fences, and I said, I'm going to make him Secretary of Defense.
Yes.
And they're like, well, we just had Red Skull as Secretary of Defense. and I'm like, okay, then this shouldn't be a problem. But again, that's something that has had legs in various other things. I mean, characters appear in movies and TV shows that came from those comics. And surreally, the whole thing has never been reprinted.
Really?
And the two issues that were Avengers Disassembled Preludes got reprinted several times in those Avengers Disassembled hardcovers and trade paperbacks. One issue of that Avengers Disassembled two-parter got reprinted back here on my shelf. The Many Lives of Carol Danvers.
Oh,
because Warbird happens to be in it.
Yeah,
it's one part of a two-parter, and but the rest of it never reprinted. It's all that the way they've got the Epic collections going is they do them out of order. And one a year.
Yeah.
And
I thought by that point we were just reprinting everything from that era on.
Well, they did start a reprint run, starting with the Heroes Return era, and they got through. I think they got through Kurt Busiek's run, and they got through Mike Grell's run, which they skipped ahead for. And but everything in between, not reprinted, and then me and the rest of Robin Laws also is in my stretch, also not reprinted. But on the phone,
yeah,
Marvel.
But yes, if you have some time next year, I would love to talk that stuff with the Iron Man stuff.
I need to. I was gonna say I need to reread.
I need to reread it too,
but it gets brought up to me regularly. So and again, it is surreal how much stuff keeps coming back out of it.
And it kind of sets up like putting Tony in a place, going into Civil War too.
Oh well, yeah, I absolutely think that's the case. I think every moment in those first three movies where he's in front of Congress or something like that, we were not the first to put him there, but we know for a fact that John Favreau had those comics.
Oh,
because that's where he hired Adi Grainoff from.
Oh yeah,
and they got Christine Everhart, Leslie Bibb's character from those comics. They got one of the generals names came from the comics, and then of course they must have circulated those books around because when they got around to Ant-Man and the Wasp, they used Sonny Birch from our comics as Walton Goggins' character. Doesn't look anything like him, but we don't care.
So there should have been a Senator Miller in there. Okay, in Iron Man 2.
Because one of the characters is my mother. They drew my mother as one of the senators. So,
Oh, that's cool.
Nice.
No, that's true. It's and of course, my mother is as I've noted is part of why I have a comics collection today.
Nice.
With the book that you completed, was there any character a villain that you would like to write that you didn't have the opportunity to?
Well, I mean, look, the Two-Face story was already told in the comics, and I like the chance to give Harvey Dent, actual screen time, doing things in our books before all that happens.
I appreciate that.
And I think what it does is, I think it is what all the movies have lacked. All the movies have lacked. Harvey, we don't get him he's not in Batman Begins, is he? I don't think he is.
No, he's not.
So he shows up in Dark Knight as this character who becomes corrupted and etc.
This guy gets it.
And then likewise over in in the Schumacher movie again, we only know from flashback that he was a upstanding person. So they're at least getting closer to but that's gotta be I think part of the shock of the whole thing is we've got to spend some time establishing who he is, and they are able to do that in the comics, and I've sort of added on to that.
No, I'm a big Two-Face fan, and one of my things is like with the new Matt Reeves film coming out, is I'd like to have Harvey Dent in the movie, but not Two-Face, for exactly what you just said. I want to spend time with Harvey. I want to get to know him so that when the tragedy does strike, we feel that it means something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it means something. The downside is we all know it's coming, and that's oh, there you go.
I got mine. It's in the other room.
We all know it's coming. So of course that's again an opportunity to subvert the expectations somewhere.
I think that's the funniest moment in this book for Harvey Dent, where he's like, "You're checking the baseball scores now."
Well, again, I was conscious of when it was.
Mm-hmm.
I was conscious of when it was. And,
hey, you can't just whip out your cell phone and be like, "Oh, what's the score?"
One of the editors, one of the proofreaders, came back and said, "Wait, there's a baseball game Monday, and there's another one Tuesday and Wednesday with the same team." He's like, "Yeah, that's how they do it.
That's how baseball works." Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say it was someone young who was like, "Wait, a transistor radio? What is that?"
But actually, that is a line that came from a line came from my editor Tom Holler, because there's a mention where Bruce talks about a no-hitter going into the sixth, and my editor wrote in the liner notes, "Geez, Bruce, shut up! You'll jinx it." And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give that line to Harvey.
Oh, nice.
That's nice. I'm surprised Knox didn't talk more baseball with Robert Wool being such a big baseball fan.
Well, go look at one of his scenes related to baseball, and you'll see some Easter egg there.
Oh,
okay. I'll
nice.
reach. I plan on rereading the book soon because
you were reading it in line on your phone.
Spoiler alert, this is going to be a very prominent Christmas present this year for my friends.
Oh, wow.
That's been, so, Phil, you already got your copy?
I was going to say, I got mine. I'm good.
Buy all you want. We'll make more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this is a more than a once read. I mean, like you said, it's over 500 pages. So, yeah, there's
it's a great,
lots of Easter eggs. Yeah.
Sit, meditate on it, talk to your friend, who's read it.
It's a thinker.
And then go back and read both of them back to back and just enjoy that experience.
I appreciate that. Well, we put a lot of time into these things, and it's refreshing to know that people are spending time with them and referring to them sometimes years later.
All right, Tyler, should we let this man go? I'm sure he's in the middle of writing a few things.
He's had a long day.
This is not his first podcast day, nor his second.
Well, I've got new furniture coming in, so all this is coming down at the end of this podcast.
Nice.
Because I gotta have more showing.
And like I was saying, I just bought Kenobi, and as soon as I finish Kenobi, I'm going to read. I can't remember the exact title, but your Sith book.
Lost Tribe of the Sith.
Yeah, so that one's going to be after Kenobi, and I'm really looking forward to those books there.
Oh, I want to get the Strange New Worlds, man. I love the Trek.
I think you'll enjoy that. There's my website. I've got all those books. That's farawaypress.com. Notes on there. Batman Revolution is available in hardcover, softcover, and ebook right now from Random House Worlds and all your favorite bookstores. Also, Batman. The first novel, Batman Resurrection, is out in both hardcover and trade paperback. If your store does not have the hardcover and you want both the hardcovers, ask them because it's still in print. They can get it. And then people can find me online, John Jackson Miller on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, TikTok, farawaypress.com on Blue Sky, and JJM Faraway on Twitter.
All right. So thank you, sir, for your time. We thoroughly enjoyed this. I know we've been anxiously awaiting talking to you because we read the book. I'm like, I have to talk to him again. Tyler's like, I have to talk to him. So
yeah. There's like so much more. I was like, I want to dig into this, but I respect the whole not spoiling things for other people.
We're good. All right. Thanks very much.
All right, everyone, get the books. Yes. And yes, follow this man so you are up to date on his when he has new projects coming out. All right. John Jackson Miller, thank you, sir.
Look up in the sky.